The security guard's hand landed on Marcus's shoulder in the middle of the executive boardroom. "Sir, you need to leave. Now." 12 faces turned toward him. 11 looked confused. 1 looked triumphant. Marcus glanced down at his worn jacket, the frayed cuffs of his jeans. He'd come straight from the shelter like he did every morning for the past 3 weeks. He hadn't expected to be called into a meeting. "I work here," Marcus said quietly. "Not anymore." The voice came from the head of the table. Derek Crossland, the newly appointed chief operating officer, stood with his arms crossed. "We have standards. You've been terminated effective immediately." A woman in a gray suit leaned forward. "Derek, what is this?" "Marcus is was," Derek interrupted, "was our janitor, and frankly, I don't care what arrangement the previous management had. This company is under new leadership, and we will not employ people who show up looking like they slept on the street." Marcus felt the weight of every eye in the room, because he had slept on the street, or close enough to it. "I'd like to speak with Mr. Harrison," Marcus said. Derek's smile was razor-thin. "Mr. Harrison retired 2 months ago. I make those decisions now. Security, please escort this man out." The guard's grip tightened. Marcus didn't resist. He let himself be walked through the hallways he'd mopped for 3 weeks, past the elevators he'd cleaned, out through the glass doors he'd polished every morning at dawn. On the sidewalk, the guard released him. "Sorry, man," he muttered. "Just doing my job." Marcus nodded. He understood jobs. He'd created 42,000 of them. The coffee shop on 5th had free Wi-Fi and didn't kick people out if they'd nursed one drink for hours. Marcus sat in the corner with his laptop, the one thing he'd kept that didn't fit his current appearance, and opened an encrypted folder. Harrison Holdings, LLC. Majority shareholder, Marcus Cole. Net worth, $4.7 billion. He'd walked away from it all 6 months ago. Not permanently, just long enough to understand what he'd built from a different angle. He'd read about CEOs going undercover, but they always lasted a week before returning to their penthouses. Marcus wanted more than that. He wanted to strip away everything, the name, the wealth, the power, and see what remained. So he'd done it. He'd put a management team in place, signed temporary control to trustees, and disappeared into the city with $2,000 and the clothes on his back. The money ran out in 3 months. The clothes fell apart in 5. He'd learned more in those 5 months than in 15 years of board meetings. And now, Derek Crossland, the ambitious COO he'd never met, had just fired him from his own company. Marcus closed the laptop. Not yet. He wasn't done yet. The shelter served dinner at 6. Marcus arrived at 5:45 and found his usual spot near the back. A woman slid into the seat across from him, late 20s, dark hair pulled back, eyes that looked tired but kind. He'd seen her here before. She volunteered 3 nights a week. "You're Marcus, right?" He looked up. "I'm Nadia. I've been wanting to ask, do you need help finding work? I know some people." "I had work," Marcus said. "Got fired today." Her face fell. "I'm sorry. What happened?" "I didn't look the part." Nadia's jaw tightened. "That's illegal." "Technically, I was let go for policy violations, appearance standards." Marcus shrugged. "It's fine." "It's not fine." She pulled out a business card. "Call this number. It's a legal aid clinic. They handle wrongful termination cases." Marcus took the card. He wouldn't use it, but something about her anger on his behalf made his chest tighten. "Thank you." "What did you do? At the job?" "Maintenance. Cleaning." She nodded slowly. You know, I used to work corporate before I started volunteering here. The way people treat staff they consider beneath them. It's disgusting. What made you leave? I didn't. I still work there. Software engineer at Harrison Holdings. She smiled. But I leave that world at the door when I come here. These people matter more than stock prices. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. She worked for him. She had no idea she was sitting across from the man who signed her paychecks. That's good work, he said. It pays the bills. This feeds the soul. They talked until the dinner bell rang. She didn't ask why he was homeless. She didn't offer pity. She treated him like a person. When she left, Marcus sat in the empty cafeteria and thought about the way Derek Crossland had looked at him. Like he was trash to be removed. The next morning, Marcus went back. Not to the building, to the plaza across the street. He sat on a bench with a clear view of the entrance and watched his employees file in. Nadia arrived at 8:47. She walked with purpose, coffee in hand, headphones in. Derek Crossland pulled up at 9:15 in a black Tesla. He tossed his keys to the valet like a man who'd never parked his own car. Marcus watched for 3 hours. At noon, Derek emerged with 2 other executives. They went to lunch at the restaurant next door, the expensive one with the wait list. Marcus waited until they were inside, then walked past the window. Through the glass, he saw Derek laughing, holding court, saw the others leaning in, eager for his approval. Marcus kept walking. That night, Nadia found him at the shelter again. "You came back to the company today," she said, sitting down. Marcus's pulse spiked. "How'd you know?" "Security flagged it. They sent an internal memo warning about a recently terminated individual loitering near the building." Her voice was tight. "They included a photo. I recognized you. I wasn't making trouble." "I know, but Derek's pushing to get a restraining order." She leaned forward. "Marcus, why do you care about that place? They fired you for being poor. Find something better." "It's complicated." "Complicated how?" He met her eyes. For a moment, he wanted to tell her, wanted to watch her face change as she realized who he was. But that would end this, whatever this was. "I used to believe in what that company stood for," Marcus said carefully, "before it changed. It's still changing, and not for the better." Nadia glanced around, then lowered her voice. "There are rumors Derek's planning layoffs, massive ones. He says it's about efficiency, but people are scared." Marcus's blood went cold. "How massive?" 20% of staff, maybe more. That's 2,000 people. "I know." Marcus stood abruptly. Nadia looked startled. "I need to go," he said. "Marcus, thank you for telling me." He left before she could ask anything else. In the coffee shop, Marcus opened his laptop and accessed the company's financial reports. Derek had been COO for 2 months. In that time, he'd cut research funding by 40%, reduced community investment to 0, and increased executive bonuses by 30%. The layoffs would make his quarterly numbers look incredible. Wall Street would love it. The board would celebrate him. And 2,000 families would lose their income. Marcus's hands shook as he read. This was his fault. He'd left the company in the hands of trustees who'd hired Derek based on his track record of aggressive growth strategies. He'd been so focused on his own journey of self-discovery that he'd forgotten the people depending on him. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Cole." The voice was familiar. "Richard Chen, his attorney. We need to talk. There's been a development." "I'm listening." Derek Crossland filed a police report this morning. He claims a disturbed individual has been stalking the Harrison Holdings building. He's connected it to you based on your termination and requested a protection order. He doesn't know who I am. No, but he's making noise, and if this goes to court, your identity could come out. I need to know, are you ready to end this? Marcus looked at his reflection in the dark window. Hollow cheeks, overgrown beard, clothes that smelled like too many wears between washes. Not yet, he said. Marcus, 1 more week, then I'll come back. The damage he's doing. I know, 1 week. He hung up. Nadia was waiting outside the shelter the next night. You're avoiding me, she said. No. You left yesterday before we could finish talking. Marcus stopped. I'm sorry, I didn't mean... The restraining order went through. Derek pushed it through in 1 day. You can't go within 500 feet of the building. Her voice cracked. Marcus, what is going on? Why does that place matter so much to you? Because people are about to lose their jobs. And you think you can stop it? No, but I know someone who can. She stared at him. You're not making sense. I know. Then help me understand. He wanted to. God, he wanted to. But if he told her now, she'd see him differently. She'd see the wealth, the power, the billion-dollar portfolio. She wouldn't see Marcus, the man who'd learned to sleep on cardboard and appreciate donated soup. Soon, he said, I promise. She searched his face for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but Marcus, be careful. Derek is dangerous when he feels threatened. I know. She left. Marcus watched her go and felt the weight of every secret pressing down on his chest. The layoff memo went out 3 days later. Marcus read it on a library computer, his heart sinking with every line. As part of our commitment to operational excellence, Harrison Holdings will be streamlining its workforce effective immediately. Impacted employees will receive notification by end of week. No severance details, no support resources, just cold corporate efficiency. Marcus closed his eyes. He'd built Harrison Holdings from nothing. He'd started with 1 software contract and a dream of creating something that mattered, something that treated people well. And in 6 months, Derek Crossland had turned it into exactly the kind of company Marcus had sworn never to become. His phone buzzed. Nadia, asterisk, I got the notice. 2,300 people, including most of the team I work with. Marcus, I'm sorry. Nadia, don't be sorry. Be angry. This is wrong. Marcus stared at the screen. She was right. It was wrong. And he was the only one who could fix it. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. Marcus knew because he still received every calendar notification hidden in an email account Derek didn't know existed. He also knew the building layout, the security protocols, and exactly which conference room they'd use. On Friday morning, Marcus stood outside the 500-foot boundary and made a call. Richard, I'm ready. Thank God. What do you need? A suit, documentation, and a car outside Harrison Holdings in 1 hour. Done. And Richard? Make sure the board knows I'm coming. The suit felt strange after months of worn denim. Marcus stood in the back of the car, adjusting the tie, watching himself transform in the mirror. The beard was gone, the hair was trimmed, the hollowness in his cheeks remained, but everything else was the man the world recognized. Marcus Cole, billionaire, founder, ghost. Ready, sir? The driver asked. Marcus took a breath. Ready? The lobby went silent when he walked in. The security guard who'd escorted him out 2 weeks ago dropped his coffee. The receptionist gasped. A male clerk stopped mid-stride, mouth open. Marcus walked to the elevators without a word. On the executive floor, his assistant, former assistant, saw him and burst into tears. "Mr. Cole, oh my God, we thought, where's the board meeting?" "Conference room A. But Mr. Cole, Derek said you were—" "I know what Derek said." He pushed open the conference room doors. 12 faces turned toward him. 11 looked shocked. One looked like he'd seen a ghost. Derek Crossland stood at the head of the table, mid-presentation, his face draining of color. "What the hell is this?" Derek whispered. Marcus walked to the empty chair at the opposite end of the table. His chair. "I'm Marcus Cole, founder and majority shareholder of Harrison Holdings. I've been gone for 6 months. Now I'm back." He looked at Derek. "You're fired." The room erupted. "Marcus, where have you been?" "We tried to reach you. The trustees said you were unreachable." Marcus held up a hand. Silence fell. "I left to understand this company from a different perspective. I worked maintenance for 3 weeks. I lived in a homeless shelter. I watched what happened when no one knew who I was." He turned to Derek. "And you fired me for looking poor." Derek's jaw worked. That was a mistake. I didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't care. You saw someone you considered beneath you and removed them without a second thought." Marcus's voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. "Then you filed a restraining order against me, called me a stalker, tried to have me arrested. I was protecting the company. You were protecting your ego." Marcus placed a folder on the table. "These are the layoff notices you plan to issue today. 2,300 people, families, people who built this company alongside me." A board member cleared her throat. "Marcus, we approved those layoffs based on Derek's financial projections, which were fabricated." Marcus slid another document across the table. "Derek cut R&D funding and community investment to inflate short-term profits. He made us look successful on paper while gutting everything that made us valuable." Derek shot to his feet. "This is insane. You disappear for 6 months and come back dressed like a homeless person. I was homeless. That's the point. And expect us to just hand you back control? You abandoned this company. I left it in the hands of people I trusted to maintain its values." Marcus's voice hardened. "Instead, you turned it into everything I built it not to be. I increased the share value by 19%. By destroying what we stand for." Derek slammed his hand on the table. "And what do we stand for, Marcus? Charity? Sentimentality? We're a business. We're people, employing people, creating value for people." Marcus stood. "You forgot that. You forgot that every line item on your spreadsheet is someone's livelihood, someone's family. That's naive. That's the foundation of every decision I've ever made." Derek laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Then maybe you're not fit to run this company anymore." The room went cold. Marcus looked at him for a long moment. "You're right," he said quietly. "Maybe I'm not. Maybe I've been gone too long. Maybe I lost perspective." He turned to the board. "But I learned something these past 6 months. I learned what it feels like to be invisible, to be judged before you're known, to have your worth determined by your appearance instead of your character." He looked back at Derek. "And I learned that the people at the bottom, the ones you wanted to cut, they're the ones who make everything else possible. The cleaners, the maintenance crews, the entry-level staff. They're the foundation. And you were about to destroy them to make your quarterly numbers look good." Derek's face was red. The board approved. "Under false pretenses, based on your manipulated data. Marcus pulled out another document. This is a full audit of your financial reporting. Every cut corner, every inflated metric, every lie. He slid it to the board chair. You have a choice to make. Keep Derek and his approach, or remember what this company was built to be. Marcus moved toward the door. I'll be in my office. You have 1 hour to decide if I still have one. He walked out. Marcus sat in his old office, now Derek's office, and waited. The city stretched out below him. From here you couldn't see the shelter, couldn't see the plaza where he'd slept when the shelter was full, couldn't see the people struggling just to survive. From here it was easy to forget they existed. His phone buzzed. Nadia, everyone's saying you're back. Is it true? Marcus stared at the message. Marcus, asterisk, yes. Nadia, asterisk, who are you? His hands shook as he typed. Marcus, I'm the person who's been lying to you for 2 weeks. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Nadia, asterisk, I need to see you. Marcus, I'm at Harrison Holdings, executive floor. Nadia, I'll be right there. She arrived 20 minutes later, eyes wide, face pale. The receptionist tried to stop her, but Marcus appeared in the doorway. Let her through. Nadia walked toward him like she was approaching a stranger. In a way, she was. Marcus led her into the office and closed the door. You're Marcus Cole, she said. Not a question. Yes. The Marcus Cole. Yes. She laughed, a broken, disbelieving sound. The founder, the billionaire, the man whose company I've worked for 3 years. Yes. And you let me? Her voice cracked. I told you about my job, about the people I work with. I treated you like a person, Marcus finished. You treated me like a person. That's all I wanted. You lied to me. I didn't tell you who I was. That's not the same thing. It absolutely is. She stepped back. Every conversation we had, I was being real with you. I told you things I don't tell people at work, and you were just, what, playing dress-up? Slumming it to see how the other half lives? No. Then what? Marcus sank into a chair. I needed to know if I'd lost touch, if the company I built still mattered, or if it had become just another corporation grinding people down. I couldn't see it from up here, so I went down there. And what did you find? That Derek Crossland is exactly the kind of person I never wanted in power, that the systems I built to protect people had been dismantled, that 2,300 employees were about to lose their jobs so he could impress shareholders. Marcus met her eyes. And that people like you still exist, people who give a damn. Nadia's jaw trembled. You used me. No, I learned from you. You reminded me why I started this company in the first place. By lying, by listening. She turned away, looked out the window at the city below. The layoffs, she said quietly. Are they still happening? No, I'm stopping them. Derek's gone. Just like that? Just like that. She nodded slowly. And the people who already got notices, who've been terrified for 3 days. I'll speak to every one of them personally. They'll know their jobs are safe. What about you? Marcus frowned. What about me? Are you staying or disappearing again? He hadn't thought about it. For 6 months he'd been focused on the journey, on the learning, not on what came after. I don't know, he admitted. Nadia finally looked at him, really looked at him. The man I met at the shelter, was he real? Yes. The conversations we had, were those real? Every word. Then I need you to hear this. She moved closer. That man, the one who listened, who cared, who understood what it meant to struggle. That's the person this company needs, not the billionaire in the suit. Him. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. I don't know if I can be both. Then figure it out, because if you can't, Derek was right. You're not fit to run this company anymore. She left. Marcus sat alone in the office and felt the weight of 6 months crashing down. The board's decision came an hour later. Marcus was reinstated. Derek was terminated with cause. The layoffs were canceled. Marcus called an all-hands meeting for Monday morning. He spent the weekend writing and rewriting what he'd say, how he'd explain, how he'd apologize for disappearing. Monday came. The auditorium was packed, every employee in the building, plus remote workers on video screens. Marcus stood at the podium and looked at the sea of faces. Nadia was in the third row. She didn't smile. 6 months ago, Marcus began, I walked away from this company. I told no one where I was going. I left you all wondering if I'd quit, if I'd died, if I'd been forced out. I'm sorry for that uncertainty. The room was silent. I left because I'd lost touch. I'd been making decisions from 30 floors up, and I wasn't sure anymore if those decisions reflected the reality you all lived in, so I removed everything that defined me, my wealth, my position, my name, and I went to see what remained. He paused. I became homeless. I worked maintenance. I got fired for looking poor. I learned what it's like to be invisible. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. And in that time, I watched someone take control of this company and forget the most important thing. We're not just building software. We're building lives, careers, futures. We're creating opportunity, not just profit. He looked directly at Nadia. Someone reminded me of that. Someone who volunteers at a homeless shelter after working here all day. Someone who treats everyone with dignity, regardless of their title or their tax bracket. Someone who remembered what I'd forgotten. Nadia's eyes were wet. I'm not going to pretend the last 6 months were noble or wise. I hurt people by disappearing. I let Derek Crossland nearly destroy what we built. I failed you. His voice strengthened. But I'm back now, and I'm making you a promise. The layoffs are canceled. Every person who received a termination notice will receive a formal apology and a retention bonus. The community programs Derek cut are being restored, doubled actually, and I'm implementing new policies to ensure what happened to me happens to no one else. No one will be fired for their appearance. No one will be judged before they're known. No one will be invisible. Silence. Then someone in the back started clapping. Then someone else. Then the whole room was standing, applauding, and Marcus felt tears he hadn't cried in months burning behind his eyes. After, Nadia found him in the hallway. That was a good speech, she said. Thank you. But words are easy. I need to see action. I know. She studied him. The man I met at the shelter, is he still in there? Marcus thought about the cardboard he'd slept on, the soup lines, the cold nights, the feeling of being nothing and no one. He's all I think about, Marcus said. Good. Don't forget him. I won't. She turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, I'm glad you came back, not the billionaire. You. Then she was gone, and Marcus stood in the empty hallway feeling more seen than he had in years. 6 weeks later, Marcus stood in the plaza across from Harrison Holdings. It looked the same, glass and steel gleaming in the afternoon sun, people flowing in and out like blood through a vein. But he saw it differently now. He saw the maintenance crew arriving at dawn, the security guard who'd apologized for following orders, The faces behind every window, each one a person with a story, a struggle, a life that mattered. His phone rang. "Marcus Cole." "Mr. Cole, it's Richard. The Wall Street Journal is requesting an interview about your return. Tell them no. They're calling it the Undercover Billionaire Story. It's getting significant attention." "I don't care. This wasn't about attention." "Then what was it about?" Marcus watched a woman exit the building. Nadia, headphones in, coffee in hand, heading toward the shelter for her evening shift. "Remembering," he said. "Sir?" "Tell them no, Richard, and clear my schedule for tonight. I have somewhere to be." He hung up and crossed the street. Inside the shelter, the dinner bell rang. Marcus took his usual seat in the back. Nadia arrived 5 minutes later and stopped when she saw him. "You came," she said. "I told you. I don't forget." She smiled, the first real smile she'd given him since learning his identity. "Good," she said, "because someone needs to teach you how to make decent soup. Last time you volunteered, you burned the carrots." Marcus laughed. They worked side by side, serving food to people who didn't know his name or his net worth. People who only knew he showed up, he listened, and he treated them like they mattered. Because they did. As the last person filed through the line, Nadia turned to him. "So, what now?" Marcus looked around the shelter. The worn tables, the chipped plates, the faces of people just trying to make it through another day. "Now," he said, "we build something better." "We? If you'll help me." She considered him for a long moment. "Ask me again tomorrow, after you've cleaned the kitchen." Marcus grinned. "Deal." That night, as he left the shelter, he looked back at the building. Plain brick, cracked windows, but filled with more humanity than any boardroom he'd ever sat in. His car was waiting. His penthouse was ready. His empire was restored. But tomorrow he'd be back here, and the day after, and the day after that. Because 6 months ago, a security guard had put his hand on Marcus's shoulder and told him he didn't belong. Now Marcus knew better. This, right here, in the broken places where people fought to survive with dignity, this was exactly where he belonged. And he wasn't leaving again.